Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we are discussing Alpharius and Omegon, as we ask just who knew of the twins' existence. Now, there's no real need for a spoiler warning today, but just keep in mind I will be mentioning events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, and in particular the Horus Heresy series. So you have been warned, but with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so Alpharius Omegon, twin Primarch heads of the Hydra. The truth of their existence an enigma, much like the Legion itself. Did the Emperor create twins, or was it an action of the warp during the scattering? It certainly appears the twins themselves believed the latter, and kept it a closely guarded secret to all outside the Legion. And as far as we're aware, the Emperor never mentioned Omegon. But who knew? Was it really a secret to all? Or did some others know regardless? Did other brother Primarchs figure it out? Well, we can only guess, but that's what we're going to be discussing today. So let's begin with surely the most obvious. The master of mankind, the Emperor himself. Now for me, the tale Alpharius spun in his Primarch novel was indeed a lie, at least for the most part, with it really being doubled down on throughout the End and the Death volumes 1 to 3, on how Horus Lupercal was the first found. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. He was the first found. And how important he was because of it. And how important his relationship was with his father as a result. How truly tragic it was that he was the one who betrayed everything. However, I think we can certainly see truths in Alpharius's later reunion retail with Omegon, and their conversation of the Emperor never mentioning him to Alpharius. Regardless if he created Alpharius or not, I could easily envisage the Emperor not mentioning anything. I've always leaned to the more likely possibility of the Emperor did in fact create the twins, and given the secretive role intended, he wouldn't mention them. It seems completely within the Emperor's nature, probably seeing them as fulfilling their secretive role exactly as intended. And I do think Omegon's seeming betrayal of Alpharius could possibly hint to a sign the Emperor had at some point spoken to Omegon, revealing he did in fact know of him. Either way, I mean, come on, this is the most powerful psyker in existence here, ever. By magnitudes. It's not even close. A guy who, despite casting off the godlike power of the warp, still was able to go toe-to-toe with a Horus Lupercal who was fully immersed in the full power of the United Pantheon. All 4 gods of chaos. It's insane the Emperor could do that. And all the while upon the Golden Throne, he could look across the galaxy to Macragge, blocked only by the Ruin Storm. He restored Jagatai Khan's soul to his slain body, with just a thought. He could hold countless conversations with his sons, with Malkador, shield the entire Imperial Palace from the powers of chaos during the siege, all whilst holding the portal closed against the titanic might of the endless hordes of the warp. And you want to tell me he couldn't tell Omegon was around? Come on. Whether the Emperor did create the twins, or if it was an act of the warp during the scattering, I simply cannot believe the Emperor wouldn't have been able to tell. He was just too powerful. He knew. He most definitely knew. And well, if the Emperor knew, Well then we know that means Malcador knew too. If the Emperor created twins, well, it's a no-brainer. If he didn't, and psychically could tell anyway, well then he would have told Malcador. The Sigillite alone was the only man in existence the Emperor shared all his plans with. Even his late gamble with Magnus the Red, one that could have gone very wrong and ruined everything, Malcador knew. So it's very straightforward here. If the Emperor must have known, which I think he did, then Malcador must have known as a result too. Now from here, things get a little more mysterious, and there's definitely no certainty in these opinions from now on. However, next, I'm going to say Magnus the Red. Now if you watched my uploads on Magnus's opinion on his brother Primarchs, I said there when discussing Alfarius, I could have sworn there was a little comment by Magnus somewhere in the lore, teasing he maybe knew of Omegon. But as I said then, I couldn't find it when I went back to look for the life of me, so maybe I did indeed imagine it. My excitement does tend to get carried away at times. But we know Magnus is a breed apart in the Primarchs, a psyker of unimaginable power. Second only to the Emperor himself, he spent a huge amount of time flying and exploring the Immaterium, peering into its ever-changing currents. He was a Primarch who could converse with his brothers from across the galaxy, could see what they were doing from across the galaxy. If any Primarch could or would know of Omegon, then surely it would have been Magnus the Red. Any hint detected, any sign seen, you just know Magnus wouldn't have been able to resist investigating further, needing in his sense of superiority, and yes, arrogance, to tease he knew the truth. And maybe he did. Maybe he did. We'll most likely never know for sure. But if any Primarch did, again, I think it would be him. Now next, I think an intriguing possibility could be Leman Russ, one we've discussed before. Russ as a Primarch is obviously a demigod of ability, but his feral senses seem to take it to a whole other level, especially his heightened sense of smell. Yes, Alfarius and Omegon are identical twins, but like if any Primarch could tell them apart on a psychic level, it would be Magnus. Well, for me, if any Primarch could tell something was amiss physically, it would surely be the Wolf King, Leman Russ. And though his comment to Alfarius of, "I'm surprised there's only one of you," was said as a joke, there's always the possibility it could have been a sly hint that he knew the truth. Heck, who knows? As the executioner, maybe he was even told the truth by the Emperor, though I find that one particularly unlikely. However, regardless, if anyone could tell the difference physically, my money's on Leman Russ. Now next, I have the Urizen, Lorgar. Now originally I have no doubt Lorgar was completely none the wiser. However, after his fall to chaos, and his embracing of the Pantheon, the emergent ability of his psychic power being truly harnessed, well then, I think it's highly likely he learnt the truth of Omegon's existence, mainly from the creatures of the warp. Now, does it count if we're not talking Great Crusade? Well, maybe not. I guess we could argue that one. But I think regardless, by the time of the Heresy, Lorgar had been blessed with a knowledge, whether truth or lies, second only to Magnus himself. And that would surely have included the existence of twin heads of the Hydra. Now, these final two are going to be more honourable mentions, I'd say. Two ideas that definitely intrigue me, but ones that are even less likely than the ones I've already mentioned. And first of all, I have Rogel Dawn. Now we know Rogel killed Alfarius, slicing off his brother's hands before slicing his head in two. A brutal end. And we know obviously Rogel still has a part to play within the Scouring, as well as Omegon, taking full self-control of the Legion. And we know both legions are going to be very active. There's nothing in the lore to say they will ever meet during this time, but the lore is surely going to be greatly expanded. And honestly anyway, it's all a bit of a mystery at this point. Who's to say Rogel won't come face to face with Omegon on a battlefield during the Scouring? A moment where Omegon may try to seek revenge. I mean, what a scene that would be. Rogel presented by the face he chopped in half. Not a legionary mimic, but a true Primarch. The shock would be awesome to see on Rogel's face, and it's surely a scene we have to get. And Rogel's a Primarch centred on the reality, the practical, and I think he, of all the Primarchs, rather than placing it down to an action of the warp, the ruinous powers somehow bringing Alfarius back to life, I think Rogel would realise there must have been twins, looking back over his history and realising the signs were always there. So no, Rogel doesn't know right now, but we could see him discovering the truth within the Scouring. And in fact, I hope we do. And finally, I wanted to mention Lion L. Johnson. Within Alfarius' Primarch tale, he recounts a meeting with L. Johnson, where he is meeting him disguised as a legionary, and it's prior to his unveiling as a Primarch. And though, as I've said, I'm very doubtful of most of Alfarius' stories in truth, it does recount how Alfarius could see L. Johnson knew something was amiss. And Alfarius couldn't quite tell if L. Johnson knew the truth and was just carrying on the charade, or if he couldn't quite put his finger on what was wrong. And I think regardless of if the timing of this scene is true, I think Alfarius' opinion of the Lion's ability is. And well, I think this sense and ability of L. Johnson would surely come into play if he met Omegon after meeting Alfarius as well. So I'm not saying L. Johnson knew of Omegon, but I think there's a possibility he could sense something wrong if he did meet Omegon after meeting Alfarius. Now, I didn't know whether to include Rabute in this list or not. We know as it stands he is believed to kill Omegon during the Scouring. However, we don't know if he's going to know Alfarius is already dead. If I remember right, Rogel's kept pretty tight-lipped about that so far. Definitely not mentioning it when Vulcan was talking about not being able to kill Conrad. So for now, I'm leaving Rabute off. But if he does learn the truth of Alfarius, there's obviously a possibility he could deduce the truth when meeting Omegon. However, that's it. That's the people I think knew of Omegon, and the ones I think possibly knew too. But as always everyone, what do you think? Who do you think knew the truth of Omegon's existence? Which of the brother Primarchs do you think discovered the truth? And what do you think of Malcador and the Emperor? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.